Hey there, folks. My name is Lucas Martin. I'm our business development manager here at ARC Advisory Group. Our analysts make it a priority to monitor the key technology changes, vertical industries, and any regional trends impacting the global business environment as a whole. This is a new market update segment where I'll pick the minds of our industry experts here at ARC Advisory Group. We'll chat about the scope of the market, the supplier landscape, key growth and success factors, and any key trends they may have discovered through their research. Now, let's not waste any more of your time and hop right into the interview. Welcome back to another market update episode. Today, I'm joined by Ralph Rio, a senior analyst here at ARC Advisory Group. Ralph recently finished up a 2023 global market analysis report on engineering design tools and building information modeling, or BIM. And I wanted to set up some time to share a little bit more with the audience today. Ralph, thanks so much for the time. Can you touch on the scope of the market analysis report?
Sure. So engineering design tools is, that side of it is software that people use to design a plant, infrastructure like bridges and stuff like that, or buildings, commercial buildings. Perhaps if you're in the office, you're probably in a commercial building right now. So it's used to design and the construction of those types of assets. You know, this is we're a modern society, and all these things are needed by modern society. As people move to cities or suburban areas, they need roads, they need bridges, they need water treatment. That's infrastructure. If they need more products that they're going to buy, so that drives the building of process plants. And they also need buildings to work in and maybe to have warehouses and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So while you were doing the research, can you touch on maybe a little bit about the supplier landscape, maybe a couple of the bigger suppliers and maybe one or two of the up and coming players?
It's a very complicated and complex supplier landscape. This is a mature market, so there's a lot of segmentation, and you've got the things I mentioned, process plants, you've got the infrastructure, you got buildings. Those are all clearly different types of assets, and suppliers have tended to differentiate themselves by focusing on either particular industries or particular type of assets. So there's some suppliers who are really good at infrastructure, bridges, roads, etc. Other plants and other suppliers are good at process plants. It could be oil and gas, it could be chemicals, those kinds of things. And they have a tendency to differentiate by offering functions specific to those vertical industries. And there's still other suppliers who are really into buildings and building construction, design and all that kind of stuff. So, and you know, you've been in buildings, it may look simple, but you've got electrical infrastructure, plumbing infrastructure. You got to make it substantive so that you know, if there's a little bit of an earthquake, it doesn't fall down, for example. There's all kinds of building codes going on. And then it's got to look pretty on the outside.
Interesting. You know, I didn't know the supplier landscape, you know, had so many companies with their respective competitive advantages and, you know, within their little niche market. While you were doing some of the research, Ralph, did you maybe uncover a growth or success factor or two you wanted to mention?
Well, the market is growing much more rapidly than other software market areas, and much higher than the general population. You would think a mature market would grow with the size change in the size of the population. It's vastly exceeding that. And one reason for the growth has to do with the licensing model. So they've gone from perpetual licenses with a big upfront cost, and you've got to buy servers and all that kind of stuff and install it. You need a system integrator probably to help you out. They've gone from that to cloud and software as subscription services. So that reduces the upfront cost by 60%. On average, it's a third to 40% of the first year cost compared to a perpetual license. So much lower costs. It's also going from capital expenditure to an operating expenditure. So now department managers can improve it rather than having to go up to some, almost a board of directors to buy this kind of thing. So simpler to buy, less expensive, huge increase in the number of seats going on. Second thing is, simply with capitalism, there is a growing middle class. There's been studies done that as people are moving out of being poor and into the middle class. And when you're in the middle class, you can now start afford things. You need plants. You can live in better housing, buildings, and then you need infrastructure. You got to get between your house and where you work and et cetera. And you need roads and bridges and water treatment and power distribution and all that stuff that is designed using EDS BIM software. So that's another growth driver, is just a general improvement in living conditions globally. And the third one I'm going to mention has to do with climate change. So number one, you may think about, windmills, solar. Yes, you use engineering design software to design those assets. But also what's going on is taking the existing capabilities and making them more energy efficient. So we see a lot of upgrades going on, and sometimes completely replacing a plant so that it is much more energy efficient and safer, fewer environmental issues and stuff like that. And the last one I'm going to mention is kind of obvious. The installed base of assets is huge. Installed base of assets, buildings, plants, et cetera, and they're getting older. And when they get older, they start to need more maintenance, and eventually they need to be replaced. And those are projects that are designed using EDS BIM software. So we see a very strong growth for the market, and we believe that our forecast is that's sustainable for at least the next 5-year period.
Great. I really appreciate the comprehensive answer there, Ralph. Kind of going back to your first point, it sounds like a possible growth inhibiting factor for some of these suppliers is kind of that entry cost, right? The suppliers that aren't really able to get to that, 1/3 to 40% reduced, initial upfront costs, maybe are falling behind. Is there maybe another growth inhibiting factor you wanted to mention?
Well, just to answer your point, nearly all the suppliers have converted to software as a service or subscription services. Okay. So there are a few who aren't quite there yet, who are maybe because of the design of their software, is the architecture are a little struggling to get there, but they're all moving. They're either there or they're moving there as rapidly as possible. So that is no longer an inhibitor. It is definitely a growth factor. The main inhibitor is there aren't enough engineers. There aren't enough people who can design buildings and plants. And this is globally, our educational systems are not producing enough engineers. It's most obvious in North America and Europe, a little less so in Asia. Particularly India has developing a lot of engineers. That's why the global service providers are all located, almost all located and headquartered there. So our educational system is probably producing, I remember reading some statistics. In the US, it's 60,000 engineers a year, and we could easily use 100,000. According to what I've read. And there is generally believed a shortfall of several 100,000 engineers. And we hire people in India as a service provider because there aren't enough engineers in North America and Europe. Any improvement in productivity is a significant competitive advantage for any of the suppliers. So, basically getting more work with done with the few engineers that we have.
My next question is more geared towards the asset owners or the technology end users, and maybe some strategies you would recommend to buyers of these systems. But I just wanted to remind the audience that ARC Advisory Group actually produces these technology selection guides where we work with your stakeholders to weigh certain criterias to really try to help guide you guys through that process. And we also have our STAR process as well, which is a little bit more hands-on with our internal experts. Was there any other key trends or points you wanted to bring up, Ralph, as we kind of wrap this up? I know we're running short on time here.
Well, from a buyer viewpoint, recognize that this is a mature market. It's been around for at least 4 decades. And with a mature market, the suppliers tend to start to differ because they all have similar functionality at a high level. They start to differentiate themselves by creating competencies in a vertical market. So as a buyer, you need to take very careful look at the kind of functions a supplier provides. Do they fit your industry? Do they have an installed base in your industry? Do they have references in your industry? By the way, I strongly recommend calling a couple of references when you get down to a real short list, because they can give you insights onto the business processes and how to use their software most effectively. So look at their competency and capability in your vertical industry. What's emerging, the emerging trend in this space is digital twins. And it's our assessment that that will be the next generation of user experience, user interface, the way you navigate to assets and applications that have the engineering information and documentation available everywhere, so that some groups aren't using out of Rev or older versions of the document and creating mistakes and rework and all that kind of ugly stuff. We see digital twins with the visualization, asset management, and simulation being the next generation. So if you're looking to buy one, we're kind of also recommending having a little bit of a strategy discussion with them. Where are they going with digital twins? Because we think that will be a change, create a change in potentially in market shares and market rankings going faster forward.
Well, Ralph, I know we're running out of time here. I wanted to personally thank you for the time. Audience, we have links to our website and more information about this market analysis in the description below. You can contact us directly through those web pages. We'd love to discuss how market data, analysis, selection guides, and reports like this can help your company. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next market update episode.
Live long and prosper.